My name is Hannah Gudgel, and this is my capstone poster presentation for Senior Capstone 4350. I did my study over test anxiety focused around college students and whether high-stress exam and testing scenarios cause high levels of test anxiety resulting in lower test scores. Test anxiety is apparent in all college students during their careers. It is a psychological phenomenon that is being studied more and more often in today's society. I have a few questions that I wanted to answer during this study. Do high-stress testing situations make test anxiety in students increase? And what does the stress exactly come from? Feelings of tension and doubt, along with worrisome thoughts, cause a triggering in the nervous system when an individual faces an evaluation of their achievements. Some researchers believe that test anxiety develops from a perceived threat to one's goals, including self-worth, educational or occupational aspirations, or one's self-identity. So that's meaning high-stress situations cause people to doubt themselves, which in return causes them to do worse on testing situations. So if it's a make or break it test and a student goes in with a lot of anxiety, they are more prompted to do worse than better due to the amount of anxiety they are going through. My hypothesis for this study, I actually have pretty much two. Due to test anxiety being associated with performance, I hypothesize that college students experience larger amounts of test anxiety when dealing with high-performance testing scenarios. I also hypothesize that students who experience high amounts of test anxiety will also perform worse on tests versus if they are confident in their abilities going into the exam. The more important the test is, the more anxiety a student experiences before and while taking the exam. So if a student is confident going in, they're more confident about their skills, which means they will do better on the test. If a student is already doubting themselves and going in with extreme amounts of anxiety, they will do worse. My participants in this study, this is starting the methods section. A total of 20 participants is how many people I asked to participate in my survey. 10 of them were female and 10 of them were male. I wanted to make it even sides, so there was no gender mix-up. All participants were over the age of 18 because that's when people start going to college, and the oldest participant was 50. My dad actually just graduated from college and he's 50 years old, so I decided to use him as a participant. The measures I used, the scale I used is the Beck's anxiety scale. I found it to be the most efficient when asking the questions. It was easy for the participants to answer the questions without me giving them anxiety by asking the questions. They weren't hard to answer and it was a very easy scale. The Beck's anxiety scale is a self-report measure of anxiety. The participants in my study were asked to rate themselves on a scale of 0 to 3 for 21 different items, and I will list the items. 0 being not at all, these are the symptoms. 1 being mildly, but it did bother me a little bit. 2 being moderately, meaning it wasn't pleasant at times. And 3 being severely, and it was bothersome to the participant a lot. Once the participants rated all 21 items, I found the sum of all 21 items in order to confirm their score for the Beck's anxiety scale. A score of 0 to 21 means the experience of the participant was a low anxiety. A score of 22 to 35 means the participant experienced moderate anxiety, so not a lot, but not a little bit. And a score of 36 or above means the participant is experiencing extreme amounts of concerning anxiety. The list of the symptoms was going going into the experiment, so these are the questions I asked each participant to answer on the scale from 0 to 3. Numbness and tingling, hot sensation, wobbliness in the legs, incapable of relaxing, so unable to relax, fear of the worst happening, dizziness or lightheadedness, heart pounding or racing, restless, terrified or afraid, nervous, fear of choking or feeling like you can't breathe, hands trembling, whole body trembling, fear of losing control, difficulty breathing, fear of dying, frightened or afraid, indigestion or discomfort in the abdomen, fainting, red face, or sweating but not due to the heat that they may be feeling. After I had asked those questions, I asked my family or my participants to, I thanked them for participating in my study, and that was the end of that. I found that the more stressful the testing scenario is, the worse the test anxiety became for each of the for each of the persons participating in my study. I also found that the more anxiety a person is having, the worse their test scores will be. All 20 of my participants scored higher than their 36 on the Beck's anxiety scale. So this means that every single person that I asked to do my survey had concerning levels of anxiety. I focused asking the questions and telling them, I want you to answer these questions while thinking about your anxiety during taking a test. So I know the Beck's anxiety scale is based more around just normal anxiety, but I wanted to see if it correlated with test anxiety as well. And I feel that it did a pretty good job. There was a relationship found between anxiety and test scores. It was negative. There were some limitations to the experience that I conducted. Some of the participants were not current students. So my dad graduated last May. He was the oldest participant that I asked to survey, and he is not currently enrolled in classes but was, so he doesn't have the stress on him right now completing classes, so he wasn't in a super anxiety, high level stress situation, but he had gone through it before, so I wanted to include him. The honesty level when answering the questions is also concerning, because you never know how honest people are being when they're answering the questions. They could be possibly just saying what they think is the right answer or what's going to make them not look as bad. So honesty was a big thing. I did ask my participants to answer honestly without feeling anxiety in the moment. So I'm hoping that they did, but accuracy could have been off just because of how they were answering the questions, how they were choosing to answer. Another limitation is that when I was researching, I found that some researchers think that high levels of stress can actually increase your test scores. My study concluded that was false, but some research indicate that high levels of anxiety lower test scores, and some show the opposite, saying that anxiety increases test scores by increasing arousal levels. So being so jacked up on anxiety makes the brain work harder, and in return lets students and whoever's taking an exam or a test score better. If conducted again, I would do a meta-analysis, which may produce a more accurate result. Having several different analyses may change the results. I would like to do this again with a larger group of people. I chose 20 to make it more simple for my participants and in the time period that I had. But if I were to do this again, I would probably do at least 100 people, just because I feel like more people would make a more accurate result in showing different varieties. I would like to also do younger students as well, not just college students, because I feel like everyone experiences some type of anxiety when going through school and classes, and it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm sure everyone has been there and done that. So I would like to conduct another study with younger participants, and maybe even older than my dad, for instance, people that went through college a long time ago in a different time period. I would be interested to see how things are different then than they are now. This is a pretty new topic, but also is being researched more and more today. I feel as though if more research were done, then it could possibly bring up more factual support